This is the story of the village of Marianad in the south of India, and these are the four young people who are helping to write that story. Three of them are Indians, and one is a European. Sister Loretta is an Italian nun and a trained nurse. John Kurian has a degree in business methods and administration. Nalini is a specialist in rural development and leadership training. And Eugene Kolas has studied the cooperative movement in both India and Canada. Together, these four people are planning a gentle revolution among the fishermen of Kerala, which is bringing new hope to those people who draw their living from the depths of the Indian Ocean. Of the four young people, Eugene Kolas is the only one who comes from the locality.
I am from a fishing community, from a fishing family. My cousins are all fishermen, all my relatives are fishermen. And when I was doing my studies, I realized that instead of making money for me, I should do something for my own family, that in a larger sense. So also, when I was about to expect my results, one of my cousins, first cousins, drowned in the sea. So that made me still believe that I should do something for these people. So, and I heard of some developmental projects going on in different parts of Kerala. So I wanted to work in that line, and I got a letter from the bishop for a training in that line. So after the training, the bishop asked me to come back, and he offered this post. That's how I came to Medina.
Eugene Kolas has been more fortunate than many of his fellow countrymen in the kind of education he has received at home and abroad. If he so chose to look for them, there are many well-paid jobs and opportunities for personal advancement open to him. Instead, he has chosen to work among the fishermen of Kerala, not only because he himself is of fishing stock and wants to better the lot of his own people, but also because he feels that fishing is one of India's most important industries. 80% of the fish landings in Kerala are made by small fishermen like these of Marianad, who battle with the sea to collect its hidden wealth, but who have never themselves received a fair share of it. The boats used by the fishermen at Kerala are called catamarans. They are so frail and primitive that they would hardly look safe on a village pond. Yet their very simplicity is the source of their strength. They are each made from 3 coconut trunks roughly lashed together with a collapsible mast and sail. The water penetrates between the tree trunks, but this doesn't affect the boats because they are in effect rafts floating on the sea rather than boats sailing on it. The fishing is done by hard line, long line, or by net, depending on the season and on the type of fish sought. At sea, the fishermen of Kerala are in their element. On land, they are the victims of a social system that has been exploiting them and their forefathers for many generations. It was to help them against this kind of exploitation that the village of Marianad was originally built. It was started by the Bishop of Trivandrum with help from the state government of Kerala. The area is a strongly Catholic one, and many of the initiatives in social planning came from the church. The present bishop, Peter Bernard Pereira, used to work among the fishing people and knew their needs. He hoped to make Marianad a centre and a headline for the idea of self-help among all the fishing villages of the coast. Marienad is not therefore a traditional village. Its houses are made from brick and mortar rather than from coconut leaves, and its people have all come to live here within the past 8 years. They agreed to pay off the cost of their houses with the profits from their fishing. Bishop Pereira had found out at an early stage that the fishing people valued only what they paid for. The applicants for the village were carefully screened, and only those who were prepared to work hard and plan for the future were accepted and allowed to take possession of the new houses. When they moved into the village, a number of social workers followed them. One of them still lives in Marienad, Sister Loretta.
So when I arrived, we were a small team of 3 people. We are all foreigners. And actually we came with a lot of desire to start many things, but when we arrived in the village, we realized that first of all that we have to learn ourselves, to live with the people, to learn the language. Actually, at the beginning, when we came to settle down here, we were having a lot of meeting with the women especially, and we were asking what we could do together. And the women were asking, especially one lady I remember, now is not here, Elizabeth. She was having 3 little children and they were all the time sick. And she was telling me especially that I am a nurse, that she was supposed to go very far and she was not very well attended for the children, that could start a kind of hospital or a dispensary. How much you have there?
Setting up a dispensary was not exactly what Sister Loretta had in mind when she came to Marienad. But the first and most valuable lesson she learned in those first months was that she should give the people what they needed and not what she thought they ought to need. She had the good sense and the good humour to shelve all the elaborate social schemes she had been planning and provide the people with the medical aid they were asking for. As time passed, Sister Loretta and the people of Marienad came to know each other much better. In a village which had no doctor, she was the one they all turned to in time of sickness. It wasn't enough for her to hand out medicine at the dispensary. She also had to know something about the way they lived, about their diet and their hygiene, in order to reduce the risk of disease and epidemics. At the same time, the principle was enforced that people who were working must pay for any medicine or treatment they received. Sister Loretta started special clinics, one for pregnant women and one to give education in the elements of hygiene and dietetics. Another trained nurse was added to the staff to make it possible for Sister Loretta to make visits to neighbouring villages and conduct regular clinics in them. As time went on, Sister Loretta was joined by the other members of the team of animators, Nalini, Eugene, John Kurian. They waited patiently to see what form the next request would take. Once again, it came from the women. In the coast villages, the women help in the distribution of the fish. They carry it on their heads to the inland towns and villages, sometimes as far as 15 or 20 miles away. While the women were away, someone had to look after the young children. Traditionally, the older children minded the younger ones, which meant in practice that many of them never had a chance of attending school and getting an education. This was the next problem which had to be faced. By now, the women of Marienad were getting used to the idea of meeting together to discuss their problems and to devise means of tackling them. The way to deal with this one seemed to be by setting up some kind of creche or kindergarten, where all the young children could be brought together and cared for, while their mothers were at work and their older sisters at school. And so it happened. When the need had been expressed, the animators were happy to give their advice. A creche and playground were quickly organised. The babies were cared for in special buildings, while those who were a little older were provided with swings and slides and merry-go-rounds. At the same time, a social training centre for adult women got underway with courses in home management, mother and child care, marriage guidance, home nursing and public health hygiene. Students of these training courses help in the creche and children's playground at Marianad as part of the practical side of their training. Another development was the starting of a kindergarten school for the children. One of the helpers undertook to teach them their prayers and their catechism, and this gradually expanded into a regular class where the children were taught religion and their local language, Malayalam. Once again, the principle was insisted on that the people must be prepared to pay for the services they receive. The children had to bring their few coppers with them and pay them into the communal fund. It was around this time that an approach was made to Goethe, the Irish Freedom from Hunger campaign, for help in the building of a community centre. The result was Goethe House, a multi-purpose building which has become the centre of life for the women in the village. One part is used as a shop, which sells rice and grain and oil and other essential commodities at prices which the people can easily afford. The inside of Goethe House is a social and community centre, which the women can use when they're not working with the fish. Arts and crafts are taught, and one of the most popular activities is net making, which has the advantage of being useful to the community and of earning extra pocket money for the net makers. Recently they've started to use nylon for their nets. They were warned by their menfolk that the nylon would drive the fish away, but the men were wrong, and the new nets have proved much more flexible and hard-wearing than the old. A woman working for 7 hours a day can hardly earn more than 50 paise, or 3.5 pence in our money, in Kerala. At Goethe House, women are trained in other kinds of sophisticated craft work, such as knitting and embroidery. Their work is then marketed on a cooperative basis and provides the women with a better wage than they could ever expect to earn on their own.
The primary Sangha Sangate Uru Vividodesha Sangha
Up to this, the men had shown little interest in cooperation. What finally brought them together was a project to build a new church in place of the hall in which Mass had been said up to then.